Welcome to the Tick Tock Podcast. The clock is always ticking, so let's synchronize our watches and dive in. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and I'm here to help you make time for what matters. Hey, friend. One of the best things about hosting a podcast is getting to talk about and learn more about things that I find interesting. There's a lot of benefits, but that's definitely one of them. And when I first started this podcast, I actually made a list of all of the topics that either I felt that maybe I had a little bit of mastery on and I wanted to share, or topics that I thought, okay, there's got to be somebody out there who's got this figured out and I want to tap into that. And then maybe there was a little happy medium between the two. So one of the things on the list that I was making I just described as the bookends of a day, right? The beginning of the day and the end of the day. And my intention then was to do them in chronological order. So I was going to first talk about the morning bookend. And there's a lot of books out there, right? About miracle mornings and how to start your day off right. And then right before I recorded that episode, something in me said, wait, I feel like maybe there is more magic and more importance in actually the evening bookend, the night bookend. I thought maybe there's something about setting up that time of rest that is really what leads to the next day. And I don't know, there was just something in me that felt that there was something there. And that was way back in episode 36, in case you're interested. But the beauty of that is it started me on a journey. And then don't you love interesting alignments? Because I got this message from a girlfriend a few weeks ago, and she said, there's something that I've really been on a journey about, and I've personally worked through, and I want to share it with the world. And we just got to go in Messenger, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And here she is with us today. And we're going to talk about this sacred evening routine. And wow, is she going to have some beautiful, beautiful perspective for you. So everyone, please welcome my girl, Michaela Belle.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And even, we have the same middle name.
Well, see, I was going to say we needed to get something out of the way first.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, Michaela Belle, do you know that I am Callie Belle? Spelled the same way. You can see it if you're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Belle, the way that God intended.
Amen.
And so we got to talking about that. So let's just talk about it. This is important.
Mm-hmm.
So my middle name, Belle, is after my great-grandmother, who was Belle. And I hated it, Michaela, growing up. I hated it. Yeah, because people made fun of it. Bell, like ding dong,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Beauty and the Beast came out. And then all of a sudden,
it means beautiful. Beauty.
It does mean beautiful. It does. Yeah. And then I loved it so much that I named my daughter's middle name Belle. And then our dog's middle name is Belle. And I think I told you when my daughter was little, she thought everyone's middle name was Belle. So it would be like Lisa Belle, Matt Belle, like whatever, everybody's middle name. So what's your Belle story?
Yeah. So Belle, my mom is one of 4 girls, and her maiden name was Belle. And so because the name didn't continue with all 4 girls getting married, right? A lot of the girl cousins in my family have Belle as our middle name to carry the name on. So like my sister's name is Mackenzie Belle. And then I continued it. So my oldest, her name is Malin Belle. My youngest, her name is June Belle. So we've just like continued that tradition, and it means so much to me. And I love to like the family aspect of it. It is just like so close to my heart.
So we're soul sisters, basically.
We are.
We are. And now everyone that doesn't have the middle name Belle is just like, oh.
I know, right? It's so beautiful, I think. I think it has such a nice ring to it, no pun intended.
I do too. All right. So that was important. We needed to set the stage of kind of just our special relationship that we have here. And speaking of something that's special in this, I could see your face as I was sharing sort of this little winding journey to the importance of what happens in our evening. And that's what you're going to speak to us about.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I've had quite a journey because it's funny that you say bookend rhythms because that's what I call them too. And I feel like everyone was obsessed with morning routines for a really long time, myself included. Back in I think it was 2016 or 2017 when my daughter was in kindergarten and she's now in 8th grade. But I remember like our mornings were just so chaotic and stressful and I felt like I was starting the day like angry with her cuz she wouldn't put her dang shoes on, you know? And there was one day after kindergarten, she missed the bus and I had to drive her to school and I sat in my driveway and I'm like, this has got to change. It was my I'm done moment. You know, like we all get to those moments where like, nope, I'm changing this. Done. And I read Hal Elrod's book, which my mom got me like a long time ago. And I was just like, no, because I'm not a quote unquote morning person. That was always what I said. And so I totally went all in on this morning routine. And I was like so stuck on it for a long time of I got up every day at 4:45. I got on my Peloton, you know, I had my coffee, journaling, affirmations, devotions, reading, you know, all the things that he talks about in the book. And a couple years of doing that and no nighttime routine. Like my nighttime routine consisted of me like scrolling on TikTok or Instagram back then. So I started to notice some effects of even in my body. And then I was just having the hardest time falling asleep. And so I started researching. I'm a researcher. Like if I can't figure something out, I will go to Barnes and Noble or get on Amazon, research books, order them, listen to all the podcasts. Like I just love to research things that I can't figure out myself. So I started the very first book that I ever read. It was called Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. Have you ever heard of that book?
No, I haven't, but it was interesting because I've been following Ariana Huffington
Oh, yeah.
about, yeah, like I mean, lack of sleep almost killed her. And she said she's like a sleep missionary now,
Yes.
talking about that. So would you say the book was called Sleep
It's called Sleep
Smart?
Smarter
Okay.
by Sean Stevenson. If you're watching on YouTube, I take all the covers off my books because I color code them because I'm weird like that. But there is in the foreword of it, I'm just going to read you the tiny little thing. And this was written by Sarah uh, Gottfried. She's a doctor from Berkeley, UC Berkeley, I believe. Anyway, she said, when your sleep suffers, you suffer major consequences beyond dark circles under your eyes. You're probably grouchy and not fun to be around. Key relationships and parenting will suffer. Work productivity declines. Your level of cortisol, a key stress hormone, is higher. That makes you eat more and store belly fat. Your thyroid slows down. Insulin doesn't work. Your blood sugar gets out of whack. You can't clear the gunk out of your brain or your soul. Your risk of cancer is quadrupled depending on the duration and volume of your sleep debt. You increase your risk of diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and heart disease. And I was like, hold hold on. I mean, I know you're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep, but I did not realize how impactful your sleep was. And every single book I've read or podcast I listened to talked about how important your nighttime routine was to making sure that you not just fell asleep, but also stayed asleep and got restorative sleep. And so I really became kind of obsessed with my nighttime routine and figuring out what worked for me. Um, I went all in at the beginning and then I kind of scaled it back a little so that I could be just, gradually work my way into it. But I used to lay in bed and my thoughts just keep me up for 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And if you think about it, if you're go, go, go all the time and you lay in bed, this is the first time all day that your thoughts have an opportunity to be heard by you. And so it kind of makes sense why you lay there and you just can't stop thinking is because you haven't listened to yourself all day. And so once I started doing this morning routine that was all recommended by these sleep scientists and was all pretty much the same information. Um, I was able to fall asleep so quickly. You can ask my husband. He's like, I don't get it. You, as soon as you get into bed, like you go to sleep so quickly. I stay asleep now. I used to have really anxious dreams. I don't have those anymore. I used to wake up with a really sore jaw because I would grind my teeth. I don't grind my teeth anymore. And I had no hormonal acne. I was able to regulate my emotions so much better just a couple months into shifting. And so I just am really passionate about talking about it. And as a life coach now, one of the very first things that I do with my clients is we talk about your bookend rhythms. And the very first thing that we establish is the nighttime routine. Because again, everything flows from there. And there's just so much science. So it's not even like an opinion. It's just straight facts that the more that you focus on this one routine, it can have an epic impact on every single area of your life. And maybe we'll get into some of like the really interesting studies that I have like read about, but I don't know, when it comes to productivity and the time management and that kind of realm, I I think that every time you talk about productivity, we have to also talk about rest and renewal. And when it comes to type A, high achieving women, sometimes we look at rest as the opposite of productivity. And this is the analogy I always give people. I want you to imagine you're in a forest and you're cutting down a tree and you're like swinging away. You've got an axe and you're swinging away. You're doing all of the right activity. You have the right tool in your hand. You're in the right environment in the forest. You're at the right tree. So you're doing all of this work, right? And it's all right. If the blade on the axe is dull, you're going to work so much harder and you're going to have to work for so much longer for the same amount of progress. Where if you just learn how to shift from swinging and into sharpening, you'll know that every single time you go back to work, you're the same. The tool is the same. The tree is the same. Like the environment is the same, but the blade is sharp and you're able to make so much more progress in a shorter amount of time. And that's how I describe rest to people. When you can wake up every morning with your brain that is like in its optimal state and it's sharp and your body is rested and renewed, you can go at every single thing that you're doing and have like greater productivity, more focus, more patience. Everything in your brain is working like it's supposed to. And you give yourself, that's just the best foot forward. So that's how I always think about rest.
Well, you've come to that conclusion about rest even outside of the cultural norm right now, which is there's almost a badge for exhaustion.
Yeah,
There's a badge
100%.
for the hustle. There's the badge for the staying up late, right? There is, I don't know, there's just somehow we have gotten it twisted that it's honorable
Right.
to have let yourself go, to have to push through. And maybe I am speaking more because I am more wired to be the achiever and to do
Yes.
that. And so it's almost like it's celebrated.
Yeah,
And what you're saying is you can do the things that you're wanting to do more of better, which is
exactly.
ultimately the goal, if you will prioritize this
Yes.
resting, sleeping, the routine that leads to it. I thought it was interesting what you said that sometimes we have those thoughts at night because it's the first time that we're quiet enough that they can be heard. They're like,
Yeah,
"Hello, I've been trying to talk to you all day." And there's probably some real value in those thoughts too. And that I have a feeling you're going to
exactly.
tell us how we can download them
Mhm.
so that we can have that rest too. Um, okay, so let's talk about some practicalities. Let's talk
Mhm.
about some of the things that we can start. Okay, because I know, like you said, some of us want to just go full out, like, okay, I'm starting tonight.
Yes.
Watch out, family. everything, like I'm turning the Wi-Fi off in the house. Like, I mean, this is not going to go well, right? So let's start small, but let's start. So
Okay.
what would you suggest?
Yeah, the first place I think is a fantastic place to start is with what I call the closing shift. And so if a restaurant closes at 9 p.m., the employees don't leave at 9 p.m., right? There's a closing shift afterwards. And the intention of that is kind of twofold. One, to clean up after the day, and then two, to prepare the restaurant for a successful morning shift, a successful opening. And so, kind of if you think about your night like that, the beginning of your nighttime routine is like your closing shift for your home. And one of the very first things that I do, and you probably talk a lot about this too when it comes to like habit formation, is always the cue, right? So, okay, like my nighttime routine is starting, and it can be a little bit different for everybody. In the very beginning, when I first started, it was I got a really cute, like Target sleepwear set. And that was like my cue that my nighttime routine was starting. But one that I really recommend now is dimming the lights in your house. So naturally, we're supposed to kind of like mimic nature in the sense that as the sun is setting, that would tell and signal to our brain and to our body it's starting to get close to bedtime. And it turns on these signals that say, okay, melatonin, you're going to be releasing in about 45 minutes to an hour. But because we live in homes and you know, cities or whatever where it's just so bright all the time that our circadian rhythms are off. And your circadian rhythm is just your internal clock. Helps you to say, "Hey, it's time to wake up. Hey, it's time to go to bed." And most Americans are circadian rhythm, that internal clock is very off because of the direct relationship that it has with light. So if you can start like I like to do it around like 9:30 is I just dim the lights in my house. And it helps to reset that circadian rhythm. You're giving a signal and a marker to your body and to your brain. Hey, it's getting ready. It's almost that time. So that's the first thing that I like to do. And then I set a timer for 10 minutes and tidy up an area. So I call it 10 to tidy. And sometimes I'll do multiple 10-minute timers depending on the situation that's at hand. But I always clean up the areas that I go to in the morning. So for me, that's my kitchen and my living room. So I just make sure that those two areas are all cleaned up so that when I wake up in the morning, I'm not waking up to feeling stressed out or like, ugh, like not feeling good because my area is not clean. So
You know,
that's another
I
thing.
just have to say it reminds me well, and I sorry to interrupt you, but
No, you're good.
it's also partly so that you can sleep too without having that, like,
Yes.
literal clutter in your head, and it
Yep.
reminds me of the Friends episode where they told Phoebe they knew she could not fall asleep with leaving her shoes out, and she's like, "Yes, I
Yeah.
can. Yes, I can." And, of course, it keeps cutting to her, and she's laying in bed like, "Oh my gosh, I have to put these shoes away," right?
Yeah.
So, it's not only for the future for in the morning how it feels, but
Yeah.
also you might just be laying there thinking, "Gosh, I gotta do the dishes. Gosh, I gotta"
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Just
Mhm.
had to interject that. Yeah.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
such a good point. I don't think I ever really thought about it like that, so I love that. And I love Phoebe.
Yeah.
She's, like, the best.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so dim the lights and, like, spend 10 minutes or so tidying the house, and then I prep for the day. So thinking about what are the normal things that trip you up in the morning? For some people, it's like for me, it was always my workout clothes and just trying to find what the heck I'm going to wear or what are the kids wearing? What am I having for breakfast? That's a really big one for me. I hate cooking breakfast in the morning. Absolutely hate it. So the better that I can be at meal prepping my breakfast saves me so much time. And essentially what you're doing. So every morning you wake up, your willpower or your discipline is like a battery. And every single decision that you make wears away at that battery life. And you want to make sure that you're saving that willpower and that battery life for the things that matter, not like what's my workout outfit going to be and what am I going to have for breakfast? So if you can make as many decisions at night, you save that discipline power so much for yourself the next day. So your prep for tomorrow might look different than mine because the things that trip me up in the morning or stress me out might be different than yours. So just think about what are the things that stress me out in the morning? What tends to trip me up? And then, okay, what can I do to either eliminate that or eliminate it as much as possible? And then put your phone away, plug it in, put the phone away, put the iPad away. There's just way too much research on what that again it's that light, right? That relationship to light and that blue light just kind of coming into your eyes, and so your body doesn't even know. If you're on your phone or the bright house and you finally turn everything off and you get in bed, your body's like, but hold on a second, I didn't have time to release melatonin, I didn't have time to unwind. So you're giving your body that opportunity and those signals that it's time to start the process. So those are what I recommend. That's like quote unquote what we call the closing shift.
I love the idea of the closing shift. And one of the things that I was hearing you say with the prep for the day and the willpower, and I love that. The
Mhm.
willpower is like a battery, is I think we make better choices at
Yes.
night than in the moment. So at night, if we're prepping our steel cut oats for the morning, or we like got our stuff for a little egg quiche, or I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
We make those choices instead of like, well, gosh, I guess I'll just go through the drive-through at whatever and get a bagel, right?
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with bagels, but just saying, like
Right.
we're gonna get one like from a store as opposed to what we're having at home. And
Mhm.
it's gonna cost us more money, I'm sure, and energy and time. So I love the idea that the pre-deciding at night is also better
Yeah.
decisions in
Oh
the
my
morning.
gosh, it really does help you because we make choices and then our choices make us.
Mm.
My pastor says it this way. He said, "You're born looking like your parents and you die looking like your decisions." And one thing that has helped me so much in my life, in when I do my nighttime routine, it just helps me make so many better decisions the next day. And there's a lot of neuroscience to that. Like if you get 6 hours of sleep or less when you wake up, your prefrontal cortex, which is the front part of your brain, is it's called like your impulse control center or your COO, right? So it's the thing that helps you make logical decisions. It allows you to say, hmm, do I need to buy that? Or like, what are some of my bigger financial goals here? So if you sleep less than 6 hours or 6 hours or less, that is almost turned off. And the thing that is turned on, like super high, is your amygdala, which is the emotional center of your brain. And so all of your decisions then are based on how you're feeling, what you want right now, right? So everything is led by emotions. And that is because when you wake up, if you didn't get enough sleep, that's the state that your brain is in. So
You
when you
know,
sleep well, whew.
it's I was gonna say all of this is so divinely appointed by God, how he created us. And I
Mhm.
always think of the story of Elijah in the Bible, who was like, I'm the only one left. Nobody else is serving God. It's, he's just feeling some kind of way. And I think it was the angel through God just like said, you need food and a nap. And that that's what he did. He, like, woke up from his nap and he could, like, fight the battle again, right? And I
Yes.
look at we have daughters the same age, our older daughter, my daughter's in 8th grade too, and
Mhm.
sometimes I'll just look at her and I'm like, I think you just need to close your eyes and
Yeah,
lay down and take a little nap. There is that that
for
sleep
sure.
that our bodies need."
Yes. Wasn't there that one, was it TikTok or Reel, where the little girl is, like, crying and her brother's like,
Yes.
"Did
Yes.
you did you take a nap today?" Well, you need to.
And she's like, "No,
Yeah.
she didn't take a nap. She didn't take a nap." So the physiological, the emotional, the mental capacity, the physical capacity, so much of this is reliant on our being able to get that rest. And I know you said there was some other sciency things that you've learned alongside of that. I mean, I'm open, girl. Like, Tell us anything more. You talked about the frontal cortex, the importance of that. I know you were talking about whether it's diseases that we face,
Mhm.
whether it's decisions that we're making. I mean, you can elaborate some more on that too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one really interesting one because, not sleeping has a lot to do with your weight as well and your ability to, like, stay disciplined with your eating habits and all of those things. Partially because of that, again, that impulse control center is not live, is not going on there, so you're having a more difficult time with that, but also there's 2, hormones that have to do with your appetite, and it's lectin and ghrelin. So lectin, when leptin, when leptin is released, it's like it tells your brain and your body, "I'm full, like, I'm satisfied." And then ghrelin is the hormone when it's released, tells your body, I'm still hungry. I still need more. And when you get 6 hours of sleep or less, leptin decreases by 18%. So that's the one that says you're full. And then the one ghrelin that says, I need to keep eating is increased by 28%. Those are pretty large percentages. And then your body and your brain craves like really sugary foods, really high carbohydrates, which all of the like sugar is good for you in the right way, carbs are good for you in the right way, right? But like super high sugary, cornstarchy, that kind of stuff is what we end up craving. So there's just like again, like a ton of science of when you start reading it, you can't help but want to sleep.
Well, I was gonna say, now we're all gonna be like, all right, those last 5 pounds, I gotta go. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to bed, everybody. This is how I'm
Right
gonna
now.
get rid of those last few pounds. I know it's still light out, but turn on the light. I love
Close the
it.
blinds, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, put on our little mask, right? Mom's going to bed. It's 6 o'clock. I know. I'm gonna lose some weight now. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, Michaela, you not only took this upon yourself, started to figure out what this looked like for you, did research, but you've taken it a step further and you have a really beautiful resource that, as this podcast is dropping,
Mhm.
something else exciting just dropped too.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm a huge believer in like as a life coach, I love knowledge, right? I love teaching other people things. I love coaching women through things, but you have to implement what you learn. And I love creating resources. That's like something that I'm known for, whether it's a journal or a planner or a book of some sort, some kind of resource. And so I have a lot of physical things that come with my courses or coaching, but this is the first time I'm ever releasing like a physical product. So partly terrified but super excited about its potential. So I used to write all these different there's about 7 different steps that I do every single night. And I used to write them out and like kind of draw them out in this blank journal. And I honestly got tired of it. So I just designed it for myself. I designed it on Canva and then I sent it to my graphic designer and then I started using it with my clients. And I had 50 women that used it for a month and were like, oh my gosh, I want to send this to my friend. I want to send this to da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, I need to make this thing. So I created it's a physical book. It's like part journal, part planner. So it's a 60-day guide to help you plan out and have a beautiful space for your nighttime routine. It's called Own Your Night. And I chose 60 days. I was going to do 66 because you know what they say about it takes 66 days to develop like an actual habit. But it's 60 days and it's everything that you could possibly need to just open up the book, check off the little things, decide on your unwind cocktail, which I'll tell you about in a second, not an actual cocktail. Like a place to brain dump, a place to reflect, a place for gratitude, a place to look at your schedule for the next day, and just to breathe. It is every time I open it, I designed it so that it just makes you exhale and it's your safe space for you and you, like you to meet with yourself and to connect and to get your body, mind, and soul ready for bed. So Own Your Night is coming out October 27th is when it is launching. It's on a pre-order right now, but in case you're on YouTube, I'll just like hold it up. Um,
Yeah,
and
show us your
like,
baby, and
yeah.
we're gonna link to everything in the show notes too, so
Mhm.
people can start to own their night and follow Michaela too as well. So all that's gonna be in the show notes. We'll have some different images as well of the book, the journal in our Facebook community too. But yeah, tell us about the 7 little areas that you have honed in. You gave us the concepts just a little bit before on how to get started, but
Yep.
now I know you've got some specifics in there too. So tell us how you came up with those, what that means, why those are helpful.
Yeah. So the very beginning, right at the top, it just has a place for you to put your date, yesterday's bedtime, and tonight's bedtime. The research is very clear that to help you with your circadian rhythm and resetting it, you'll want to get to bed around the same time every night to just kind of reset you. So that always helps me to just like keep myself accountable to making sure I'm right within like a 30-minute window if possible for getting to bed at night. And then we have your bedtime prep, which is your closing shift. So your closing shift is like one of the first things on there. I'm not sure. I know not on the audio you can't see this, but and then I have this little box that's called your unwind cocktail. And it's not an actual cocktail. But I don't know why I decided to do that, but I just thought of it like two different ingredients that you mix together that help you unwind. So I gave a bunch of different examples on there, and these are all things that are proven by science again to help you regulate your nervous system. And our nervous system has like two kind of wings to it. There's your fight or flight, and then there's your rest and digest. So a lot of us are in that go, go, go mode all throughout the day, but you have to shift into what's the science term is parasympathetic. So your sympathetic is your fight or flight, your parasympathetic is your rest and digest. So you have to shift modes. And they call it down regulating. So, kind of going from this stress day to exhaling and kind of shifting and down regulating into this parasympathetic branch. And those are things like reading and stretching, doing a slow skincare routine. That's my go-to. Every single night I just take my time doing my skincare routine and I breathe in and out, big breaths and just like release the day. Sometimes I'll do gua sha at the end of the day. But yeah, that's my favorite. My go-to is a slow skincare routine. Breath work, journaling, reading the Bible, all these different things. So I just recommend that you pick one or two. I think two is the sweet spot. And I decide on which ones I'm going to do. Then I preview my day and there's like a little spot for you to just kind of write down doctor's appointments or things that you got going on, things with the kids. And then at the very bottom, I always put breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What am I having? That I don't know why, but eating like stresses me out. Preparing to eat. Like when I'm really wealthy one day, I'm gonna have a chef. I always tell people I'm a millionaire. It's just not in the bank yet. But I will have a chef. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner is something that I write down. And then my absolute favorite activity is a brain dump, but I call it a CTL brain dump. And that stands for close the loop. So at the end of the day, all of the thoughts that will tend to keep you up, just write them down on a piece of paper. It could be to-do lists, it could be things that you need to get done, or even like the other day I wrote, I feel like I failed Malin today. I'm feeling kind of like a mom fail, right? Like anything that's on my mind, I just put it down. If there's something that I cannot control, I cross a line through it. There is this beautiful thing that happens when you cross a line through it. It tells and communicates to yourself, okay, I can just put this down for tonight. And then whatever else is something that I can do and I have control over, I put my next step next to it. So if it is, oh shoot, I really need to like schedule that doctor's appointment. I'm like, okay, I can do this tomorrow. I'll put this on my to-do list tomorrow. Or as an entrepreneur, I theme my days. So like Fridays are my creative or content days. So if there's something on the list that's that, I'll put on Friday's list. And I give everything on the brain dump a next step, because that will just close that thought loop so it doesn't keep continuing in your mind. And that's like one side of the page. And this all has to do with like the logical part of you. And then the second page is the emotional, your soul connecting to you. And I just ask myself three really simple, short questions every night. What emotions did I feel today? Like, what was going on today? Then I ask myself, what was challenging today? What did I struggle with a little bit? And then what went well and what brought me joy? So those are the three questions that I ask myself, and I have little boxes to fill those in. Um, I've also been doing, when I write down like, oh, I felt kind of anxious today. I write down, was I doing something? Was I with someone? Just to kind of notice patterns, because reflection is protection. And I highly encourage people to have a daily rhythm of reflection. And then 3 little big gratitude points. This is one of my favorite things. I love it so much. Maybe I've been saying everything's my favorite. Have I?
You're allowed to. This is I was gonna say, I called it your baby earlier. You're allowed to. You have put this to true practice.
I love it so much. I look forward to
If you
this
didn't love it,
every
it wouldn't be
single
in the
night.
book, right? Or it
True.
wouldn't be in the
Very,
journal.
very true. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. But I call these little big gratitude points. And I want you to think about the tiniest little moments you possibly can. Like, not like, oh, I'm grateful for the roof over my head. No, I want you to think very specific moments throughout your day, because it's always those little glimmers that end up being the big things at the end of our life. So, and the more you do this, like I have clients who this was really hard for them to do in the beginning, and now they're like, "Michaela, I can feel myself in those moments." And like I'll say, "Oh, this is going to be one of my little bigs tonight," which I just love.
I
And
had
then I
one of
have
those the other night, and maybe it's also getting a little bit older and having perspective.
yeah.
And my daughter was practicing piano, and she wanted me to come listen. And which, as a mom, what that means
Yep.
at that age.
Mhm.
She's side-eyeing me every 5 seconds to make sure I'm not on my phone, right?
Wow, yeah.
So I didn't have my phone. She's playing. And all of a sudden, Michaela, I just closed my eyes and I
Mm.
sat there and I listened to her. And it was just beautiful. And, she's
Mm.
13, almost 14. And I just listened to her.
Mm.
And that would have been one of my, what do you call them, little bigs?
Little bigs, yeah.
It's one of my little bigs. And I thought, I am so in this moment right now. And it was so beautiful what she was playing. And
Mm.
I mean, I'm still talking about it. And it was weeks and
Yeah.
weeks ago. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that would have gone front and center. And it's still front and center in my heart.
Mhm. I
I'm
love
so
that.
glad I didn't miss that because it's easy to miss them.
It really is, especially just with how easy it is to be constantly on our phones. And I actually, the other day, so my youngest is 5 months, almost 6 months. And the other day, I caught her like looking at me, and I was scrolling on my phone. And I'm like, I want to make sure that her little life, she's not just always looking at me on my phone, right? It just kind of had this moment of, I want to be a little bit more conscious of this during the day. So yeah, but I love that you had that moment and that you closed your eyes and you were fully there. Presence is so powerful.
Mm. Okay. Love it. Little
So good.
bigs. Little
Yeah,
bigs.
little big. And then I just have a little box. It's a diagram just showing what a box breath is. So inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and you do that 4 times. That's just how I kind of close my routine out, and then I go to bed. I do have a little sentence at the bottom that says, I showed up for myself by completing at least one activity tonight. And so you get to check it off, because it's not about doing this perfectly every single night. And I when I very first designed this for myself and had it printed, and I was so concerned with making sure that it was full, that I wasn't even really doing it, you know? And so the more important thing is that you just get to at least like one thing every single night, so that you're building that muscle for this daily rhythm for yourself. And again, I recommend starting with that bedtime prep or that closing shift, and then adding little things in there. And I do have at the back of the book, there's I think 30 pages of a blank journal. And then 10 different ideas of how to journal. Cause a lot of people don't know. Like I remember I used to have so many journals that were like a couple pages filled. And then I would just buy a new one because I just didn't know what to do inside of it. So I gave a bunch of different ideas, just to kind of give people an opportunity to journal at night, because it can be the most valuable time that you spend with yourself, because those thoughts, again, I've been trying to talk to you all day, and they can hold so much wisdom. Even the fears that you have, or, the quote unquote bad emotions, they're not bad. And they're only bad when you suppress them and you don't let them have a seat at the table. I recently heard a therapist say, um, sometimes shame has to exist before it can exit. And the same thing goes with like fear or sadness, or some of those other quote unquote bad emotions or negative emotions that we might feel. And journaling through some of those things at night has given me a lot of freedom to let my feelings kind of be there and let them exist, and just allow me to deepen my self-awareness and my emotional intelligence, right? Because your relationship with yourself is so important, and everything flows from that well of that relationship. And so having this daily routine at night is like my time with myself to deepen that relationship every single night. And I'm a mother of a almost 6 month old. Like there's a lot of not good sleeping. We'll just say that. But the one thing I can control is I can do my nighttime routine and get the sleep, nice restorative sleep in the sleep that I do actually have.
I was going to say, you're at least guaranteed a few hours before maybe the baby gets up. And
Yep.
yeah, and that's why and you're a prime example why this nighttime routine is so critical leading towards the next morning. And then, I mean,
Yes.
if you're already at a deficit because you've got a baby, I mean, it's just going to snowball the whole next day. So you're at least giving yourself a fighting chance, a
Yes.
fighting chance for the next day. So you mentioned that you had some women sort of beta test this for you.
Mhm.
And what was some of their biggest takeaways from experiencing this?
The biggest thing that I heard was like a recurring thing that I heard, because I had them fill out like feedback form after they used it for a month. And a lot of them talked about how it helped their anxiety. That was probably the number one thing that I heard, is that they woke up with less anxiety, and they weren't overthinking nearly as much, which is a huge win, especially
So
for us women.
less anxiety and losing weight. I think you sold us. Like this is a weight loss journal. Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness. Well,
It's gonna be my
girl,
new marketing.
yeah, I was gonna say you gotta have the hook, right? Gotta have
Yes.
the hook. Well, this has been such a beautiful unfolding. I
Mm.
think one of the things I loved too that you said was it's not about filling in every box and making it perfect. Some of us are going to really have to work on that. I even did an episode talking about when is a good routine a bad thing. And
Mm.
that could be when you're doing it literally because you feel the pressure to check
Yes.
off the box and now you're
Yeah.
exhausted from
Yep.
doing a good routine. So we're eliminating that factor from it. You have it in black and white, well, in color, but you have that
Mhm.
written down just as a healthy reminder. What's the end goal here? And the end goal is not to fill up a journal. The end goal is to direct you in that path for health and for rest as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So, just a reminder, this journal is available on your night because it just launched on your birthday. And so, get this as a gift to yourself or for
Yeah.
your bestie or your mom or someone that you love. And of course, make sure you've got copies for yourself. It'll be great. Christmas gift to give too.
Mhm.
And Michaela, for your birthday, I have a present for you. Well, it's a pretend present.
Okay.
It's a pretend present. And the pretend present is if I gave you a bonus hour and I said, okay, you get to do with it whatever you want. No one else is watching. No one else is seeing. What would you do with your bonus hour?
I would go to the beach.
Well, you can come to my beach. I live on the beach
I'm gonna
in
come.
Florida.
I'll be there tomorrow.
I was gonna say you might need a little more than an hour to get here, but and I won't bother you. I'll just give you a beach chair and a towel, and you can just go.
Mm. It's like my happy place. The majority of I am writing an actual book right now, and the majority of what I've written so far has been I wrote at the beach.
Well, we're gonna have to have you back when you've got your next book out.
Yes.
Will you come on another little podcast tour and come back?
Yes, I would love that. It's like a totally different topic, but
Well, we're right. We're open for all of them. We want to know everything. We wanna well, my prayer and desire for you is that in the busyness of everything, you don't have to come to Florida for the beach because I know you live near another one, but that you would be able to find that time that
Mm,
you could have for yourself. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so, so very much for just sharing so clearly and beautifully what is on your heart here. Is there anything else that you want to say before we have to say goodbye, which is
I know.
not fair? Although once we stop recording, you and I are going to keep talking. I know that for sure.
For sure. I think I would just say to whoever is listening that rest is not something that you have to earn. You are worthy of it, and your body requires it. You were designed to need it. And so it's not something that you get as a reward for like finishing your to-do list. And you are so much more than your productivity or what you achieve. Who you are is enough. And I hope that you're ready to carve out a little bit of time for yourself because it's very well deserved, and your body and your mind and your soul is needing it. Like maybe you arrived here today and you like, didn't know weren't really planning on listening to a podcast, or you were coming on to listen to something else and you landed here. It wasn't an accident. This is your season to focus on rhythms of rest and renewal, and you are worthy of it.
That's a perfect way to finish it. And really, really good reminders for somebody listening. Thank you, Michaela Belle.
Thank you so much, Callie Bell.
we're so excited for what's going to happen. And I know so many people are going to be blessed by what you've contributed to us. So you guys go to michaelabelle.co. We'll have everything in the show notes so that you can get your very own copy, or 10 or 20. And yes, and so thank you. We're all going to, I know, have great intention and great follow through and great commitment to the beauty of rest tonight.
Yes, I love it.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be with you next time. God bless. Thank you for joining me on the TikTok podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback fuels our mission to help you master your time. Set your alarm for our next episode, and until then, make every moment count.